Hello students, welcome to MCQ video discussion on Medico apps. Today I am going to discuss a question from oral surgery that has come in the All India PG examination and UPSC examination. And the question is from the topic impaction. Now, before moving ahead, I want to add a point here that impaction is an important topic from MCQ point of view. So let's discuss today's question. So here the question states that in winters over the wall line, the umber line represents. Let's see the options quickly. Option A is relative depth of the third molar. The option B is point of application of the elevator. The option C is bone level covering the impacted tooth. And option D is axial inclination of the impacted tooth relative to the second molar. So this MCQ, to understand this MCQ, you should first know about the Winters line or the wall line. So let's quickly learn about the Winters line or wall lines. Now, as we all know that the third molar impaction can be in any direction, like in the mesioangular direction or the distoangular direction, the vertical direction or the horizontal direction. So, to know the position and depth of the third molar, George White Winter described three imaginary lines. Yes, he described three imaginary lines. And these three imaginary lines are known as Winter's line. Now, where is this imaginary line drawn? In the space? No, they are all drawn on the radiograph. But what is the significance? How they are helpful? So the significance of they are helpful because they help in during the disimpaction of this impacted third molar. And what are those three imaginary lines? So for that, a simple mnemonic has been given, and that mnemonic is your WAR. Yes, the WAR lines represent for white line, the umber line, and the red line. These are the three imaginary lines we have to discuss in this question. And the question here is framed on the umber's line. But here I will be also discussing about the white line and the red line because MCQs have been framed on even the white line and the red line. So we'll be easily able to cover all those MCQs under this particular MCQ discussion. So here the question is on the umber's line. Now let's discuss the Winters line so that we can easily eliminate the options and get the right answer for you. So we will start first with the white line. So what is white line and how it is drawn? How it is drawn, because I am telling you that it's an imaginary line. So how would you draw an imaginary line on a radiograph? So it's a very simple white line which is drawn on the radiograph by touching the occlusal surface of the first and second molar. So if these are your first and second molar and this is the occlusal surface, if a line is drawn here on the occlusal surface which is touching the first and the second molar and that is extending towards the third molar, that is the white line. Okay. So as you can see in this image, this is the second molar and this was your first molar. So if an imaginary line is drawn touching the occlusal surface of the first and second molar, extending towards the third molar, that is distal, towards the distal section, that is the white line. Now, what is the significance of this white line? So, for that, to understand the significance, we will now move and you will have to shift your focus on this IOPA. Okay, so here as you can see in this image, this is the white line I am discussing which is touching the occlusal surface of the second molar. But I am asking you a question, is it touching the occlusal surface of the third molar? No, it is not touching the occlusal surface of the third molar. This is your third molar. What it is touching? It is touching the third molar, but it is touching the behind surface of the occlusal surface. This is the behind surface and this is the occlusal surface of the third molar. So what does it indicate? So it indicates that the third molar, it indicates the depth of the third molar from the occlusal surface. This is the proper erupted occlusal surface of the second molar, and this is the occlusal surface of the third molar, and the difference between this, the depth of the third molar from the occlusal surface, or the inclination, how much is this inclined, we will be then able to classify this impaction as if it is a mesioangular inclination, or it is a distoangular inclination, or is it a vertical impaction or a horizontal impaction. And it also helps in understanding the relationship with the erupted molar. This is the erupted molar and this is the impacted molar. So what three important points you are getting from this white line? First point is that you are able to understand how much the third molar is inclined. Okay. And if you will understand the inclination, what you will understand? You will also understand the depth, the difference in the occlusal surface of the second and the third molar. And what third point you will understand? The third point which you will understand is the relationship between the occlusal surface of the erupted tooth and the impacted tooth. So these are the three important points which you will understand from the white line. So I hope you have understood how white line is significant, and MCQs are basically framed from these 3 points. If you understand this, the inclination part, the depth, the difference, the depth, what it is specifying, how much it is deep, so what is the difference between the occlusal surface of the second and third molar, and what is the relationship between the second molar and the third molar, which will help us in classifying the impaction, okay, whether it is a mesioangular, distoangular. Now, I will ask you a question that in this IOPA, what kind of impaction is this showing? Tell me. The answer will be mesioangular because it is inclining towards the mesial part of the second molar. So this is the mesial section. If you see this, this is the middle point. So this is inclining towards the mesial portion. So it is a mesioangular impaction. So I hope you have understood the white line. Moving to the Amber's line, the second imaginary line. The second imaginary line is very important, and this is the question which is asked in this MCQ. So what it is representing and how it is drawn. So let me just quickly tell you that how Amber's line is drawn. So you can see that these are the first and second molar, and if you imagine, this is the alveolar bone which is crossing the interdental, the crest of the interdental bone which is crossing the first and the second molar, and this is just moving backwards. Distally it is moving backwards. So same as you can see, this yellow line is your Amber's line, and this is the alveolar bone which is the interdental bone which is covering the second and the first and the second molar, and then it is extending towards the third molar posteriorly, and that can move to the ascending ramus. So an Amber's line is formed, or it is drawn, which is from the line is drawn from the crest of the interdental bone between the first and second molar, and then extending posteriorly, similar to what we had done it in the white line. And what it denotes, what it will denote. So it will denote the bone level. How it is going to denote the bone level? So this Amber's line helps in understanding the alveolar bone which is covering the impacted tooth. So as you can see in this image, this is the impacted tooth, which is the third molar which is present here, and this is the alveolar bone which is moving, and a Amber's line is drawn on this alveolar bone. So what it is representing? It is representing the alveolar bone which is covering this impacted tooth, and it is also representing in certain cases the portion of tooth which is not covered by the bone. And how I'll represent that? Moving to again to this IOPA, if you can see, this is the alveolar bone and this is your this Amber's line. Okay, this is the Amber's line. So this portion is not covered by the alveolar bone. Only this portion is covered by the alveolar bone. So it is helpful in understanding the bone level which is covering the impacted tooth. That is the Amber's line. I hope you have understood. One key point about Amber's point is the bone level. Okay. With this, I am now going to move to the red line. Another question which can be framed is from the red line. What and how it is drawn? So red line is As you can see, as the name suggests, it is a red line which is drawn perpendicular from the umbers line. Now this umbers line I have already made you understand. So from where will you draw a red line which will become perpendicular to the umbers line? So for that, you need to understand that whenever we are doing a disimpaction, we are going to use an elevator, and that application of the elevator is placed on certain point, okay, and that imaginary point, okay, from that imaginary point where the elevator is placed, a line is drawn which is usually perpendicular to the umbers line, is the red line. And what is the significance of this red line? So what it will be signifying us? So it will be signifying us the depth of the tooth in the bone, how much deep the tooth is impacted inside the bone, and how much of bone we have to remove before the disimpaction, before removing the third molar. So how it will be significant? Because the amount of bone which has to be removed helps in understanding the difficulty we'll be encountering while doing the disimpaction. Okay, so this is the red line. So I hope you have understood these three: the white line, the umber line, and the red line. So moving to our question now, the four options here was relative depth of the third molar. What it is signifying? The depth of the third molar, how much deep it is inside and how much of the bone we have to remove. That is the red line. The point of application of the elevator, where we have to put in the red line. From there only a line is drawn straight up which is perpendicular to the umbers line. So this is also red line, this is also red line. But the third option here is saying that the alveolar bone covering the impacted tooth, that is what your bone level is, and that is what your umbers line is representing. And the fourth option here is the axial inclination of the impacted tooth, which is relative to the second molar. What inclination? Where we had discussed this? This was your white line which we had discussed. So I hope you have understood the four options, and this is how you have to eliminate the options and get into the answer for this question. So the answer for this question is bone level covering the impacted tooth, that is the umbers line, and we have also covered the questions on the white line as well as on the red line. We'll be keep resolving such questions. Thank you for now. Good day, good luck.